Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for tuning in. If you are watching from another country, thank you so very much. If you're watching in Ireland, in the UK, um, anywhere, Italy, Nepal, Canada, Australia, thank you so very, very much. India, thank you for watching. Nigeria, thank you for watching. And let's get started. We have a lot to talk about. And before we get started, have you ever, either in high school or in a work setting or in any type of location where there's somewhat of a hierarchy, I'm going to use the analogy of high school. Have you ever seen in high school um, either the quote unquote cool kids or a certain group of kids pick on another group or another kid, knowing that as they accuse the young person, they're doing so with the knowledge that their accusations are bogus. They're doing so with the knowledge that their accusations serve one purpose: to demean or to insult or to subjugate the person. I think we've all seen that. Hello, Salome. Hello, bonjour, bonsoir. Um, we've all seen that before. We've all seen that. Hello in Malaysia. Hello. In a different location, Eric H. But so you you've all seen that before. Well, red wave in the Senate, absolutely. Um, you've all seen that before. Now with Mueller, Trump should simply take the evidence, should take the evidence and decide on a course of action based on the evidence. It's been 2 years. There is a mountain of evidence that Hillary Clinton committed crimes. There is a mountain of evidence that James Comey covered up those crimes. And there's a mountain of evidence correlating to legal statutes. U.S. Code 793F is just one of the many statutes. There are RICO statutes that Rudy Giuliani stated the public record, where the public record is enough to indict Clinton. Now, he already answered questions. He already answered questions from Mueller. There is no evidence that he colluded with Russia. Okay, again, there is no evidence. At a certain point, if a person keeps making claims that are not based in reality, they're doing so to subjugate, to demean, to harass, and to insult another person. They're doing so for power. It's not about. This is not a truth-finding endeavor. This is not an endeavor where truth is the issue. Okay, they know very well that there's nothing regarding truth here. RICO Act, Hillary back to Australian news. Yes. Fat Samurai Productions. Thank you for watching. Dan Phonesby, I think that I've heard that before, and I humbly ask everyone, what if another human being was in the position of Julian Assange? They wouldn't want to be part of a narrative that says, well, their legal once their legal jeopardy intensifies, continues to descend into even more uncertainty. That's when they'll be saved, or good things will happen. Oftentimes, many people don't want to realize that sometimes there isn't an altruistic plan. Sometimes really, really evil people, really bad people, are able to impose their will. So with Julian Assange, there are great forces, great powers, literally powers, countries that um, that want him to pay for telling the truth, and especially also for hurting Clinton's. Well, he didn't hurt Clinton's chances, but it started long before 2016, 2010 under President Obama. But the notion that, well, he's going to, this is all one great, plan that's going to help him. That's not only wishful thinking. Mrs. Christine Assange, an amazing, amazing mom, his mother says that's not true at all. Everybody subscribe to Eric H526's game channel. He is awesome. Eric, I'm sharing your stuff on Twitter right now. If you're into gaming, he really, really is a great gamer. He's, this is, you'll know exactly what he's doing. Different Nintendo games. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So definitely check his stuff. Let's continue. So I'm going to read this. So basically, to cut a long story short, what they're doing is simply trying to hurt Trump, and they're simply trying to demean him, and they're hiding behind the government bureaucracy, and they keep saying that. Well, if he dares fire Mueller, there are going to be political consequences he won't be able to control. Like what? He has already experienced every single aspect of fake news regarding Russian interference and him working with Russia. We know that there are FISA abuses. We know that they set up Michael Flynn. They set up Carter Page. They set up George Papadopoulos. They set up Trump. We know that Clinton purchased the Steele dossier. We know that Clinton outsourced CrowdStrike. We know that the ODNI and DHS reports under James Clapper state that there's no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. So that they're confident, they're highly to moderate to high confidence. So why doesn't he simply do what he needs to do? So I'm asking Trump to just end the Mueller probe and then begin either another special counsel with Clinton or investigate Clinton, because there's evidence there. Now, if this would serve to weed out all the Republicans that are Jeff Flakes in waiting. He's not going to what did he do? He did nothing. This is just an attempt to hurt him at a certain point. I'm sorry about the what's going on here? All right. Sorry. So I'm back. This is just an attempt to hurt him. That's it. Nothing more. There's no other reason other than to hurt him. But let's continue. Let's watch this, or let's read this. This is an article from The Hill. This is from CNN contributor Jeffrey Toobin. Contributor. I used to be a Hill contributor as well. I have articles in The Hill. Definitely when I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. Even before I was a Bernie Sanders supporter, I have a great many articles in the Congress blog, in The Hill. So let's just read this. This is important because it kind of highlights the mentality of people on the left, especially the CNNs, the MSNBCs. So this is The Hill, Jeffrey Toobin. For White House legal counsel, it may be the most 5 chilling words uttered thus far in the long Russia investigation. President Trump said he has finished working on the questions submitted to him by special counsel Robert Mueller, declaring, "I answered them very easily." Now, why wouldn't he have answered them very easily? Why wouldn't he have answered them very easily? What is it about the special counsel that should make Trump worry every single day of his life? This is a fabricated. This actually helped them get the House. This fabricated, ridiculous notion that he worked with Russia to spread Facebook ads, and thus people in swing states voted for Trump. It makes no sense, and there's no evidence of these claims. But if they say, well, certain people voted, oh, there's no evidence. Well, if you say that the same thing can be said of Trump-Russia collusion, there's no evidence, but you never hear those headlines. The only reason that that Mueller was appointed is because James Comey illegally leaked classified memos. That he leaked classified memos. So it ignores what the questions notably did not include, which is a single query about obstruction of justice. Well, that's very difficult when Robert Mueller actually applied for the job. Robert Mueller actually applied for Comey's job. So Robert Mueller applied for Comey job. Okay, so Trump interviewed Mueller for FBI director, CNN. Trump considered Mueller for FBI director before he was named special counsel, The Hill. Okay, Robert Mueller, special counsel in DOJ Russia probe, had been on Trump's, short list to run the FBI. The only conflict of interest, in essence, he would have obstructed his own investigation had he been hired. Imagine if there's two alternate universes. If Robert Mueller in one universe is actually working for Trump, and in another universe trying to investigate Trump, then one could say that he was obstructing justice in this alternate universe where Trump actually hired Mueller as FBI director. So it's like this makes no sense. Mueller wanted to become part of Trump's cabinet. Australian News, Aussie J. Aussies who vote Clive Palmer, Pauline will aid in freeing Julian, as the Aussie libs are in cahoots with Hillary and deep state. Exactly. I mean, there's probably never been a more corrupt liberal establishment in America, Australia, other places in the world. It's pretty, and I don't say this because there are a lot of good progressives, there are a lot of good people on the left. I don't say this as a blanket statement. I say this in terms of a power structure. The power structure in the left is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But let's continue. It ignores what questions notably did not include, which is a single query about obstruction of justice. It ignores what the questions notably did not include, which is a single question about obstruction of justice. Why would there be obstruction of justice if James Comey had no information that could have proved or displayed a link between Trump and Russia? So you can't obstruct justice, number one, by exercising your rights as president under Article 2 of the Constitution. He is in control of the executive branch. He can fire Sessions. He could have fired Mueller. You can't say, well, it's obstruction of justice because he exercised his rights as president. The rebuttal then was, yes, well, he exercised his rights as president to stop an ongoing investigation. Okay, an ongoing investigation into what? Into Trump-Russia collusion. Is there evidence of that? And is there any accusation of a specific crime? Did he write a check to Russian hackers? Did he, what did he do? Did he spread manually himself Facebook ads of Buff Bernie coloring books with Bernie's glistening body seducing Wisconsin voters? What did he do? What did he do? Nobody knows. We do know that Hillary Clinton actually purchased the Steele dossier to then get FISA warrants. The illegal activity was not committed by Trump. It was committed by Hillary Clinton. It is illegal to influence an election. You can't say, well, it's opposition research, it's meaningless, and then say, well, it warrants an investigation. Which one is it? It all leads back to Hillary Clinton. But then there's the issue of Michael Horowitz and the Inspector General report. I'll get to that in a second. Let's continue with the Hill article from Jeffrey Toobin. That is an ironic twist, and some of us opposed the appointment of a special counsel after the 2016 election, but changed our minds when Trump unwisely fired then FBI Director James Comey It wasn't in the midst of the Russia investigation. They kept saying it's an investigation. The number 2 in charge now has a grand jury. Andrew McCabe lied to the FBI. We know that numerous times about conflicts of interest because his wife received hundreds of thousands of dollars from Terry McAuliffe, who was Clinton's chief fundraiser, and also, oh, by the way, Virginia governor. Well, we don't have to get into that whole issue. That triggered the obstruction investigation. No, it didn't. Only in the minds of the media. You can't obstruct an investigation into nothing. They're highly to moderately confident the DNC was even hacked. There's no evidence. CrowdStrike giving images of DNC servers is not evidence. If anything, it's a conflict of interest that needs to be scrutinized. If Trump strike gave exoneration, if Trump hired a firm that found quote unquote evidence that would exonerate Trump, nobody would ever allow that in the public record. They would say, well, obviously Trump paid for it. Well, Clinton paid for CrowdStrike. And then you have James Comey, who was insubordinate all throughout the Inspector General report from Michael Horowitz. James Comey was insubordinate. That's if you're insubordinate in working at Starbucks or McDonald's, you're going to get fired. So not only was he insubordinate, he was using also FISA warrants that were based on nonsense. He was using FISA warrants based on a Steele dossier purchased by Hillary Clinton without letting judges know that Hillary Clinton purchased the Steele dossier. Okay, Carter Page, there's a reason Carter Page has never been charged with a crime, because he didn't do anything. Neither did Trump, neither did Papadopoulos, neither did General Flynn. That act triggered the obstruction investigation and produced an overwhelming level of support for an independent investigator. No, he fired Mueller because Rod Rosenstein told him to do so. Again, he fired Mueller because Rod Rosenstein told him to do so. He fired Mueller because Rod Rosenstein told him to do so. And then you have the conversation with Alexander Dumbo Downer, between Papadopoulos and Dumbo Downer. So, had Trump just fired Comey at the outset of his administration or waited for the conclusion of the investigation, okay, if he fired Comey at the outset of his administration, it would have been pandemonium. And then, or waited for the conclusion of the investigation, it's 2 years into it, and they're just using it. There's a chance that he loses if this continues to go on until 2020. I mean, again, Trump is acting, and I say this with all due respect because I understand that Bernie Sanders is trying to, transform the DNC and Democratic Party from within, but that ain't happening. I think that he's being utilized as just a Pied Piper on the left to get vote. They're never going to have, even Pelosi the other day said, well, we're not going to look at Medicare for all now. We're going to look at gun control. Well, that's not why she was elected. That's not why progressives voted for all the people in the House. They manipulated their voters as they always do. But Trump will be no better than Bernie. Trump has to do 2 things. He has to either end the Mueller probe, fire Mueller, do something to expose the Mueller probe for what it is, an investigation that lacks any evidence and even lacks a predicate crime. Takes him, Reagan Clinton emails, or any other Clinton crime. Go where the evidence takes him. I'm not saying indict Clinton. No. I'm not saying indict Clinton. Just go where the evidence takes him. Oh no, here we go. Gosh. Stay at the Holiday Inn, do it live. That might be better. Just stay where the evidence takes him. Go where the evidence takes him, I should say. If the evidence shows that Clinton did commit crimes, then indict. That's it. Australian news, Aussie J. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Aussie J. Then it goes on. The omission of obstruction questions can mean a variety of different things. First of all, I don't know why Mr. Toobin is second-guessing Mueller. There's a reason Mueller didn't ask any obstruction questions, because he read the IG report. The IG report makes it very clear that whereas the prosecutorial decisions, he skirts the issue, and he threads this fine line. The prosecutorial decisions showed no bias, but the whole thing was bias. Peter Strzok throughout the whole thing, even Peter Strzok, they say, yeah, his decisions could have been biased. Well, we didn't even know of the "We'll stop him" text. I don't think Horowitz at that point knew of the text that said "We'll stop him." The entire motivation of Comey and everyone else, we're going to stop Trump. Trump voters are smelly. We have an insurance policy, all of these things. The omission of obstruction questions can mean a variety of different things, from the mundane to the horrific. It may be that Mueller concluded earlier that obstruction was not a serious allegation, which would explain why Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein did not recuse himself for being a witness in that investigation. No, Rod Rosenstein didn't recuse himself for the same reason Rod Rosenstein hasn't been fired yet, for possibly trying to secretly record President Trump and using the 25th Amendment. Sean Lundergan, UK and Australia interfered in our election. End of story. Absolutely, Sean. Absolutely. But notice how Rosenstein is still working, even after the New York Times stated that he tried to use the 25th Amendment and secretly record Trump. There is an inability or an unwillingness of Trump to show how weak the intelligence apparatus we have is. There's an unwillingness to explain just how insidious Brennan and Comey and Clapper were. Because if he did that, who knows? Maybe he fears that people would no longer believe the intelligence community, quote unquote. Who knows? But if he were to tell the truth and declassify more FISA documents, we would all know that it was a setup from day one. So my theory is that as president, he knows too much, and it hits too close to home into why everything is just if people knew that, just how overtly President Obama tried to set up Trump, then you would have congressional inquiry after congressional inquiry regarding the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and maybe he doesn't want to go through that. Instead, he's taking one for the team, and he's just, He's saving them from themselves and their own corrupt behavior by allowing them to destroy his life, which is a really sad thing. Because if he just disclosed the truth, he would be exonerated and would actually drain the swamp, which is what he's supposed to do. Or it could mean that given White House opposition to obstruction questions, Mueller will leave that matter to the Congress after he issues his special counsel report. If he leaves it to the Congress, the Senate is controlled by Republicans. So there you go. Finally, and this is the most difficult course, Mueller could be prepared to hit Trump with a subpoena to answer the rest of the questions that fall under his mandate. His mandate is to investigate Trump-Russia collusion. Not just, apparently Rod Rosenstein said, well, anything that falls under there. So now you're going after, people that this is over 2 years now. Every single person that Mueller has gone after they have nothing to do with Trump or Russia hacking the DNC, because there's actually no evidence of that. There's actually no evidence of that. So if Trump believes these questions are really about whether he personally colluded with Russia, he has not been paying attention to the developments in the investigation. That line right there says all you need to know about the entire media-driven, John Brennan-driven investigation. It was never about Trump-Russia collusion, even though it started that way. It was about, let's try to duplicate Whitewater and Monica Lewinsky. Let's try to duplicate, well, the Clintons went through their own special counsel, and their special counsel started with Whitewater. And it shows that collusion is largely immaterial to most of his prosecutions. There you go. There's the line here that everyone should even Mr. Tubin of CNN admits. The list of Mueller indictments shows that collusion is largely immaterial to most of his prosecutions. Of course it is. Of course it is. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort was prosecuted entirely for matters predating the election. Okay, there you go. And separate from collusion allegations, virtually all the remaining American defendants were charged with unrelated crimes or making false statements to prosecutors. So why does Mueller exist? The point is that it was not easy for them to answer the questions, but it was relatively easy for Mueller to indict them. Yeah. Could you imagine if Mueller was going after Clinton and Brian Pagliano? She's now forced by Judicial Watch. If Judicial Watch is swimming upstream, if they had 1/10 the power of Mueller, Clinton would already have been indicted. There's actual crimes for her illegal act. There's actually evidence for her crimes. A mountain of evidence. There's no evidence here for Trump or for anyone else around him colluding with Russia. But the legal process, the bureaucratic process, has created a life of its own. So because the bureaucratic process has created a life of its own, we must respect that bureaucratic process. Australian news. No fake news, LCJ. Australian UK peeps are good. Australian UK Lib government is the issue. Absolutely. Exactly. Dances reluctantly. Thank you. Thank you, Dances. Thank you. Thank you. Lawyers for Trump evidently delayed submission of his questions due to concerns over possible perjury trap questions. Yeah. So that's the thing. This has been a political tool from day one. It's not meant to the whole point of this. You can't, they're saying it's obstruction when James Comey's only focus wasn't Paul Manafort's, allegedly, wasn't Paul Manafort's $15,000 ostrich feather jacket. James Comey's focus was alleged Trump-Russia collusion, which they made up. Now it's whatever arises. If Trump answers with any specificity, his responses will be overlaid with the testimony of a host of cooperating witnesses, kind of like Brian Pagliano's testimony. Oh, that's right, he didn't abide by his subpoena. So you have Hillary Clinton, who has never explained how she transferred top secret intelligence from SIPRI and JWICS to other secure locations. From former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn to former Trump fixer Michael Cohen. If statements by Trump do not match up, Congress will then be left with a stark choice over who is lying on the issue. Yeah, but don't rely on Congress for anything. I mean, if you're a hardcore, Trump Russia person, if you rely on Congress for anything, you'll never get Trump. First of all, you'll never get Trump with Mueller. This is all about to end because there's going to reach a point. There's going to be a point where if he doesn't end the investigation, he will be allowing Democrats to steal 2020. Putting aside that obvious danger, there also is the fact that the answers will have a profound impact on the next stage of this Congress. What's the next stage of this controversy? They will clear the way for Mueller to issue a report on Russian collusion. Okay. It also would give him ample reason to separate that report from a report on other potential crimes such as obstruction. But you can't have obstruction if you are engaging in your right as a president, and you can't have obstruction if Rod Rosenstein told Trump to fire Comey, and you can't have obstruction if Comey was overtly insubordinate and didn't allow Loretta Lynch to do her job and played the role of the DOJ Attorney General. That would, and it wasn't Comey's job to say, well, you know what, we're not going to pursue charges against Clinton. The FBI doesn't indict, the DOJ indicts. That would mean Congress could conceivably receive a report earlier in the new year. With the House under Democratic control, then it could trigger a flurry of investigations and subpoenas, even before an obstruction report arrives. Let them see. This is where Trump needs to act decisively. They're going to try to subpoena people. They're going to try to continue the Mueller probe even before it ends. He has to divert their attention by simply explaining what took place with Clinton and Comey and the FISA abuses. It's all wrapped into one. The whole Trump-Russia FISA nonsense was conducted to prevent people from realizing the true extent of Clinton's crimes. You're dealing with a media and Democratic Party that don't care about, you saw them with Kavanaugh. They don't care about Me Too. It's one story with Keith Ellison. It's another story. With Avenatti, it's another story. They don't care about, they will say one thing and do another. They don't care about truth. What they care about is this vapid attempt at, precious power, precious. They just want power, and everyone knows it. So, whereas President Obama could have vetoed the uranium sale, the United States sold 20% of U.S. uranium capacity to Vladimir Putin. This happened under Obama's administration. No problem. Suddenly, it was okay. And he had already invaded Georgia, or he had already had that conflict with Bush. Trump didn't care. New York Times, cash flow at the Clinton Foundation amid Russian uranium deal. Trump didn't care. Australian news of Aussie J. Only way to access systems without roadblocks are the telco companies themselves. Hillary didn't use magic. She used AT&T or like. Exactly. Absolutely. I talk about that in Butter Top Secret Emails. My book, Butter Top Secret Emails, has already been read. I should say, very likely been read by people in Congress. I am highly to moderately confident there are people in Congress who've already read Butter Top Secret Emails. Highly to moderately confident. I don't know. Can't tell you for sure. Pretty sure, though. Lots of people have read the book. Rapidly losing runway to get any investigation off the ground. At least if they hope if they hope to preserve time for a possible impeachment. Even if they wanted to impeach Trump, it wouldn't get through the Senate. So, you know, even if they wanted to impeach Trump, it's 52 to 47. So one senator, there's one Jeff. Let's say there's one Jeff Flake. Then it would be 51-48. Let's say there's two Jeff Flakes. It would be 50-49. Let's say three Jeff Flakes. No, 50-49. And then, so you need what, two or three Jeff Flakes. And the assuming Mississippi goes Republican, which it very likely will, you would need three Jeff Flakes, and then you would have to get, I believe, Pence to break the tie. I believe, and then they would still lose. So the most serious allegation, but least likely allegation, is that Trump somehow conspired. So even Jeffrey Toobin, the most serious but least likely allegation is that Trump somehow conspired with Russians to hack the computer systems of his opponent. Number one, there's no evidence of that the computer systems were even hacked. Number two, because highly to moderately confident assessments by the CIA, FBI, and NSA aren't evidence. It's an assessment. It's like me saying I'm highly to moderately confident that numerous people in Congress have read my book. Okay, what does that even mean? That's an assessment on my part. I don't know if but her top secret emails was read by people in Congress. I can assume it was. The timing and structure of that operation described in prior filings would seem to undermine such an allegation. Okay, so that leaves the second possible allegation. The Russians did not have advance notice of their hacking efforts, but made Trump or his aides a type of accessory after the fact in the use of purloined emails. This is so ridiculous. There's not even evidence that shows that the WikiLeaks, DNC, or Podesta emails had more impact than Comey's letter. Comey's letter, according to Nate Silver, had more impact than anything else. That track appears to be been the focus of Mueller in drawing down on figures like Trump associate Roger Stone. Well, Roger Stone unfortunately made his own bed. You keep on saying that you spoke to this person, you spoke to that person, you're really a part of the whole thing. Well, now Mueller is, up the Kool-Aid. However, there's no crime in Trump celebrating or even inviting the release of hacked emails as he did on the campaign trail. So there you go. Jeffrey Toobin is like the biggest critic of Trump, but all he's doing now is reiterating everything that I've said. Frank J. Trump to extradite Assange in clandestine manner. That accidental indictment slip is deep state exposing Trump's intentions. Assange equals source Trump exoneration. Frank, I hope so. But what's likely? And I don't want to believe that President Trump is weak or easily bullied or an accessory to an evil act, but that's what I see. Frank, Mrs. Christine Assange, a beautiful, amazing, remarkable woman who was fighting for her son's life. Mrs. Christine Assange has stated that, there is no plan or master, there is no narrative that this is all altruistic, this is all good. Julian Assange could lose his life. Easily lose his life. So, all right, let me check my DMs, Eric H526. But thank you, Frank. At a certain point, I just can't, HA was all a plan. You falling from that, from Mount Everest and banging your head 50,000 times on a billion different rocks. This was a plan to make sure that once your brain was just bashed over the 5 billion rocks that you fell down on Mount Everest, at the end of the day, it'll make you smarter. That's not a good plan at all. I don't want to trust that plan. Mr. Romney will be the new Jeff Flake, unfortunately. I hope not, but I think that Romney, Mr. Thank you so much, Mr. I hope all is well. You know what? Maybe, but we'll see. I mean, I think that Romney has probably a better relationship than Flake, who has no. This is Flake when he goes in an elevator. I don't know what to do. What number do I press? Just press any number, Flake. Any number. Just press any number and go down. Absolutely any number. Frank J, thank you. Australian News. Aussie J. Look what they wanted to do to Snowden for showing the spying of its own peeps illegally. Exactly. Australian News, great point. Always great points. Australian News, always. Sean Lundergan. Trump gave up D-class under pressure. Doubt he has sway with Assange. Exactly. And I'm hoping, Sean, that he's just gonna focus on the. I'm hoping that he's just gonna focus on. I'm hoping that he's just gonna focus on just redacted FISA information. But this is actually a great article by Jeffrey Toobin, who wants Trump indicted tomorrow, but it's actually exonerating everything I'm saying. Finally, there could be allegations that Trump offered assurance to the Russians about some quid pro quo in exchange for the release of Clinton campaign emails. Why would the Russians hack the DNC to inform us that Hillary Clinton was corrupt? We already knew that. So we already knew that. We already knew that Bernie Sanders was being cheated. I knew when the Huffington Post called me the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet. I knew that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Want to know how I know? Because The Nation, the publication that used to be against Henry Kissinger and conservatives and war, now it's just like another Mother Jones. Helps the eventual Democratic nominee. No, these are journalists who think that I'm crazy. I used to debate these people before the DNC emails. These are quote unquote journalists who would say there's no evidence of DNC of. Can you believe people would say on the left there's no evidence of Bernie Sanders being cheated? Well, now we know. How do we know? Because apparently Russia tried to influence the election. The promise of any official act in exchange for a political favor could raise corruption allegations. Yes, of course. That didn't happen either. I stated in 2015 Clinton would lose. However, using or encouraging the public release of hacked emails is not a crime. So Jeffrey Toobin is. I love this. I was expecting to really dislike this article. The more I read it, because I'm reading it, some of these passages for the first time, this is really great. It kind of shows that he should just fire Mueller tomorrow. However, using or encouraging the public release of hacked emails is not a crime. Otherwise, Pompeo would be arrested, absent some direct role in a precursor crime. There is no precursor crime. So he mentions that a little bit. Hillary Clinton and Democratic leaders were undermined by the hacked emails because those showed they were misleading or lying to the public on various issues. This is a gold mine this is like a treasure trove of amazing. Thank you, Jeffrey Toobin. If you're watching in CNN, God bless you, Jeffrey Toobin. You are awesome. Check out Mr. Toobin, my my latest article in the Jerusalem Post. President Trump's words do not incite hatred, and also my latest piece in the Times of Israel. Julian Assange is a tzaddik and deserves freedom. A tzaddik is a Hebrew word for a holy person, a person who sheds light, spreads light in a world of darkness. Many critics, aside from Trump, celebrated the disclosure of such false statements by major political figures. Of course, the disclosures were one-sided and clearly calculated. The disclosures were not one-sided because there were no analogous disclosures on Trump's side. He wasn't cheating anyone, nor was the RNC cheating him. So you can't say they were one-sided. There is no other side. Just Bernie was cheated, and that's it. So, and clearly calculated to hurt Clinton and help Trump. So what? If the truth isn't clearly calculated to hurt Clinton or help Trump, it is what it is. It is what it is. So, how many things was the Access Hollywood tape clearly calculated to help Hillary Clinton? Every single hit piece from CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, clearly calculated to help Hillary Clinton. What about the hit pieces against Bernie? To my Bernie Sanders supporters who still watch me, you know how many hit pieces they did against Bernie? They were actively trying to sabotage Bernie Sanders. You know who was actively trying to hurt Bernie Sanders? How about Vox? How about the Washington Post? How about one of the guys, the guy who runs Vox? How about one of the guys who won the Nobel, the Pulitzer? Sorry. So hold on, let me check my Frank J. Thing that doesn't make sense is Assange has always said Russia not the source. So why not extradite? Because of danger? Because of danger, Assange is POW in UK, thin line. Well, yeah, I mean, the assumption from some people saying that he should be extradited or it'll be good for him is that that courts and judges would rule in his favor once they were given accurate information. But see, the thing is, judges don't do that. There are people in prison, in American prisons, who haven't committed crimes, and their only crime was a plea deal. So, you know. So, let's just looking at the live stream, live chat here. It's pretty awesome. Yet, without a quid pro quo, it's hard to discern even a conceivable crime. Okay, great. So, what's the problem here? This is like the best. This is the best article. The most likely crime remains unchanged from my first column in this controversy written 2 years ago, which is false statements. Trump is answering questions following hundreds of hours of testimony and millions of pages of evidence gathered from other witnesses. This is why there is nothing easy about answering these questions, but the president. So Jeffrey Toobin is like my best friend, even though I look at him at CNN all the time and I'm like, oh my God, not again. Meanwhile, he has stated everything that I've ever stated. So again, this line is probably the best line of the whole thing. Yet without quid pro quo, it's hard to discern. So can we just fire Mueller now? If there's no discernible crime, can we end the Mueller probe now? So this is probably the best article ever written on the Mueller probe, even though it's kind of meant to say that Trump's in hot water. The legal process It's not enough to justify this monstrosity. This monstrosity should end. It exists to destroy people's lives. It exists to impose state power against the duly elected president of the United States. The state is acting upon itself, all to help Hillary Clinton, who is neither the state or the Constitution or anything other than just a U.S. citizen who committed major crimes and who got away with them. The longer Trump allows this to take place, the longer he is complicit in his own demise. And that's sad. That's sad. It's really sad. Australian news. Flynn, Papadopoulos, and Carter will sue Heaps because they got set up from the inside with shifty. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Australian news, Aussie J. Absolutely. As always, you're on point. Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, think of all the money, time, everything they've lost or everything they've suffered throughout all of this whole thing. The most likely crime remains unchanged. Trump is answering questions following hundreds of hours. Okay, this is why there's nothing easy about answering. So there you go. Oh my God. You know what's so crazy? I'm sorry. This isn't Jeffrey Toobin. This is Jonathan Turley. I love Jonathan Turley. Jeffrey Toobin is the CNN. So I'm sorry. This is Jonathan Turley. Jonathan Turley has always been critical of the Mueller probe. Jeffrey Toobin probably has a very different. So my apologies to Jeffrey Toobin of CNN. He probably has the antithesis, an antithetical viewpoint to Mr. Turley, who is 100% right. This is Jonathan Turley. Why did I think? I looked at this and I just said, okay, Jeffrey Toobin. Okay, so no. This is Jonathan Turley. At the end of the day, we have a situation where Trump is allowing the government to investigate itself in an attempt to protect a private citizen who committed major, major crimes as Secretary of State. And that is very, very frightening. That is very, very, very frightening. Port Film Co-op. Exactly. Stephen Goodwin. It's an unconstitutional appointment to begin with. Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, from what I understand, Bill Nelson won't concede, which is hilarious. He still won't concede. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, please share my latest article or piece in the Times of Israel. Here it is. Here it is. Thank you so very much. There it is. Please go ahead and share it. It's an interesting piece. It's about Julian Assange and why I feel that he is very, very important, an extremely important human being. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much. God bless. I will see you all tomorrow. And to my super chat, thank you so very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been absolutely wonderful. Eric H526, thank you. And Madge Mac, after all I did for you, Trumpy, you have the audacity to let me go. It's not right, but it's okay. I'm gonna make it anyway. I guess that's my only. That's the only thing I is the only thing I got now. Port Film Co-op. Thank you for watching. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you Gladys Moore. Thank you. All right. God bless everyone. Thank you so very much. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you again. Great discussion. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks.